Thank you very much, TJ. I'm joined once again by Brian Kibler right here on the desk, and we have another great matchup coming up. That last one was definitely one for the record books, but this one could be hopefully just as good. We have HotMEOWTH versus leadpaint.
Yeah, and we saw HotMEOWTH play a deciding match against Roof Trellin earlier today, and that was a truly epic match that went, well, kind of 6 games, and he has had some time to compose himself and come back. Similarly, leadpaint was on stream yesterday, and he struggled a bit. He actually, I think, was talking to TJ last night and said, yeah, I really screwed some things up in that match, though I'm told he used a little bit more colorful language.
Yeah, well, both guys definitely have a lot on the line here, and we actually see from HotMEOWTH a Shaman ban, and leadpaint's Warrior has been banned. So HotMEOWTH really having struggled with that Paladin in his match versus Roof Trellin actually got reverse swept. So that's going to be the deck to watch out for him, see if he can actually pick up a win with that here. And then leadpaint's lineup looks pretty standard. He's got that Druid, Shaman, and Warlock.
Though it is worth noting that leadpaint's Warlock deck is the Reno Lock rather than the more common aggressive Zoo Warlock. So the dynamic of that matchup against HotMEOWTH's decks will be very different.
Yeah, that Reno Lock is going to be very similar to the one we actually just saw come out from Muzzy, which did work really well for him. It won against the Warrior deck, which is probably why we don't see a Warrior ban from leadpaint to HotMEOWTH. So we're going to go ahead and get into that first game, and it is going to be HotMEOWTH's Warrior versus leadpaint's Druid. And it is a Yogg Druid with both Ragnaros and Onyxia, which we see in his opening hand before he mulligans it away. That's a heavy start. Yeah, this is kind of an iconic matchup from ladder, not so much an iconic matchup from the games we've actually seen recently in the tournament, since Warrior has so generally often been banned. But this will be an opportunity to have this showdown. This is a matchup that, like many Druid matchups, very often comes down to the ability for the Druid deck to assemble a powerful board early. However, unlike matchups against decks like Shaman or Warlock, your individual big taunts aren't nearly as powerful because the threat of execute from the Warrior deck keeps them in check. Yeah, it's also important to note that when you're building up a big board as the Druid with something like the Violent Teacher, in this case, leadpaint does not have Wisps of the Old Gods, but if you were to have that in the deck, the Warrior with cards like Ravaging Ghoul can really punish you for building up those big boards, and then with cards like Frothing Berserker, deal a lot of damage very, very quickly. So leadpaint's definitely going to want to definitely be on the lookout for that, as well as the execute to his big taunt minions. This is kind of an interesting spot for leadpaint here. He has the Innervate and could play out the Druid of the Claw. The rest of his hand is so expensive, though. And if he does choose to play Druid of the Claw, we might even see him play it in cat form just to immediately kill the Frothing Berserker, simply because of the threat of execute. If he were to play the Druid of the Claw in taunt form, and then HotMEOWTH just attacks, executes, that could go very poorly for him. So we'll see exactly what he does choose to do with the Druid. And yep, it is a cat. Cat is for fight, takes down the Berserker. Yeah, charging the Druid of the Claw here is definitely the smarter choice, because you don't see a removal from HotMEOWTH directly. He did have the Fiery War Axe and the Ravaging Ghoul, which will allow him to clear that off. But if you were to play it in taunt form and it got cleared off regardless, without clearing off the Frothing first, then you're just setting yourself up for a whole lot of trouble. So this was definitely the smarter play, and he picks up the Mulch, which doesn't do a lot to help his really heavy hand. Yeah, he can use the Living Roots plus his hero power to remove this Ravaging Ghoul, and is exactly what he will choose to do. Certainly going to be looking to pick up some of his more mid-range minions, as his hand is glutted with many of his most expensive cards in his deck. So HotMEOWTH has a good follow-up with the Korokon Elite next turn, so he will not be letting up the pressure anytime soon. Yeah, and that's exactly what the Dragon Warrior wants to do. You're really strong when you curve out well, Fiery War Axe to get rid of those early minions, and then you want to deal that damage very quickly so then you can curve into that Draconid Crusher, which we see in HotMEOWTH's hand, which hopefully can be played for a 9/9 from the Dragon Warrior. And leadpaint is able to use these Living Roots as removal, but he is taking damage because he's forced to use Shapeshift to get in that last point each time. So if HotMEOWTH does get to that Crusher, it's very, very close to being full-sized.
He's actually 1 damage off if leadpaint were to hero power this turn, but it looks like he may just mulch this right away. He wants to ensure that the pressure is let off for at least a single turn. Has the wild growth, which will ramp him into the threat of Ragnaros next turn. So if HotMEOWTH plays a single threat like the Draconic Crusher, it could go very badly for him.
Yeah, that actually worked out pretty well for leadpaint. You don't usually want to mulch the mid-range dragons coming from the Dragon Warrior just because you do always have the threat of the 9/9 Crushers, the Ragnaros, the Grommash Hellscream, of course. But in this case, because he picked up that wild growth as well, it allows him to play the Ragnaros and directly challenge a single target coming from HotMEOWTH.
And we actually saw leadpaint have a lot of problems with his Ragnaros yesterday. Did not quite do what he wanted, but we will see where the Fire Lord decides to burn. Dragons don't burn, goes to the face.
Oh no, he does not look happy about that.
Yeah, but currently HotMEOWTH does not have an immediate answer. No execute in hand. Oh, just kidding. One came right off the slam.
Oh my goodness.
And well, it may be nearly Yogg time already. leadpaint does have an Ancient of War. He does have Ancient of War, so he can stem a little bit of bleeding right here. And the really scary thing is if he does Yogg, HotMEOWTH is getting to the point where he can start playing those big minions. He can start playing Ragnaros. He can start playing Grom. And he needs to try to, leadpaint rather, needs to try to keep himself in a position where those are not going to be threatened to be lethal. And it will just be the Ancient that gets in the way. If HotMEOWTH can find another execute, this would be really big trouble for leadpaint.
Actually, I really liked that Wrath cycle coming from leadpaint. He figures that he's going to use that now, and then next turn, if he draws something like Wild Growth or a second Wrath, then he'll be able to play it and just add even more cards to his Yogg. So he's really just trying to bump up that Yogg Saron to the most spells that he possibly can. But HotMEOWTH does have a pretty easy clear on this Ancient of War.
Yeah, finds the Fire Blast from Sir Finley, so he's able to get even push some damage past the Ancient of War, and leadpaint is running out of life. We see him in the traditional Yogg Saron pose with his hands clasped in front of him. It is time to praise the god of death, and let's see where this goes. Whose hope it's ending now? Well,
okay, he gains a bit of mana, and he's not dead, so that's always a good first sign.
All right, here we go. And Forbidden Shaping.
It's a Wisp. Feral Spirits is pretty good.
All right. Sap.
Very nice.
Yeah, doing a little bit of work here. He has not played that many spells so far this game, so hits himself. He
just got a Grom.
Explosive Trap. Interesting. So, all right, that's not really an incredible Yogg. He did manage to assemble a reasonable board, cleared off a couple of things. So he's certainly feeling much more secure than he was pre-Yogg, but he's still at a very low life total. Crucially, though, he's actually developed several minions, which makes the Ragnaros from HotMEOWTH much less threatening.
leadpaint may only be at 7 health, but if this Yogg Saron is able to stick, he's got Grom plus Heroic Strike from him, which is 8 damage.
It is true.
HotMEOWTH is only at 12 health, so he has to find some way to stem the damage flow. He does have that Twilight Guardian still, which he can play as a 3/6 taunt once again, but it's actually going to be a lot closer than we thought.
Yeah, no, I think HotMEOWTH may actually just be on the Ragnaros plan here. He is unsure right now what this trap is. He knows that it is, actually I guess he knows it's a snake because he attacked with his hero. And now he can choose to attack one of these 1/1s to set up a 1/3 Ragnaros.
Oh,
and
man.
if Ragnaros hits Yogg Saron, then I believe leadpaint is actually short of lethal damage as well.
Yes, he's
with Grom plus
1
charge.
damage off lethal.
Although he has the explosive trap up.
So it's pretty much just all over.
Well,
unless
HotMEOWTH does not use the Ragnaros, I think he's going to be in pretty big trouble. The Twilight Guardian, he's trying to set up a defensive position here, and this ends up working out pretty well. He's able to do this, but there is Grom Heroic Strike, which is not quite enough to push for lethal. Savage Roar.
Savage Roar. That is
no, he still
lethal.
Can't quite do it.
He can Savage Roar Heroic Strike. That's 6 to his hero, which he can then trade in, but that's still only 9 on the Yogg.
Well, but it's 9 damage to the face, and he has Explosive Trap. So
I mean, you just have to do it.
Well, And then HotMEOWTH would have the ability to clear off the, potentially clear off the minions on board with his minions and then drop Ragnaros.
Oh my goodness.
So this is a really tough spot for leadpaint because he's going to go ahead, it looks like, play the Grom. Yeah, so Heroic Strike plus Grom can clear and push some damage.
It's going to come down to a Ragnaros from HotMEOWTH.
Yeah, he pushes down to 2, it looks like. He's going to go ahead and put this in a position where HotMEOWTH is going to be lethal by Explosive Trap if he does attack. But HotMEOWTH, he has the Ragnaros, and he knows this Explosive Trap. Well, this Explosive Trap is just face up.
Yes.
You know, he knows that, okay, this has got to be Explosive Trap. There's no other play no other trap that this makes any sense. I'm just going for it. You know, you got your Yogg, I got my Rag. Let's see who wins this fight.
Oh no. It's a 50-50 for lethal.
This is actually huge, though, too, because he pinged the Grom, he killed the Grom, but now there's the swipe, there's the Savage Roar, leadpaint has the lethal damage. So you see a huge sigh of relief.
Oh my goodness.
As that game just went back and forth, and it will be leadpaint who pulls out game 1.
What a game. That Yogg, I mean, it wasn't the most amazing Yogg, but it set him up with the board that he really needed. Even just the 7-5 body was enough.
Yeah, he got the body and a little bit of defense. He didn't clear his opponent's board, but he got a couple of Feral Spirits. And, I mean, people talk about the dramatic swings, crazy Yoggs, but when you're at a certain density of spells, there's kind of a general impact of Yogg that you can assume that it's going to kill some minions, draw you some cards, maybe put some things in play. Obviously, the specifics of which it does can have a big impact on how the game plays out. And sometimes there's the truly crazy ones like we saw earlier today, but it's a powerful card for a reason. It's in these decks because it predictably does something akin to what it just did right there.
And even then, it still came down to that Rag shot. You know what? Leadpaint's Rag wasn't exactly cooperating earlier, so I guess him and HotMEOWTH are even on the Ragnaros. But, oh man, what a game 1. If that's any indicator for how the match is going to go, we are in for a really good one.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still some very cool decks left. The Dragon Warrior versus Druid is probably the most typical matchup we're going to get because there's still the Murloc Paladin from HotMEOWTH remaining, as well as leadpaint playing the Reno Lock deck.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see more of this Reno Lock, and then HotMEOWTH's Anyfin Paladin was just really what held him back from already winning a match earlier today. Riftrellin was able to reverse sweep it, and it's going to be, I don't know, maybe difficult once again for him to pick up a win.
Yeah, it was interesting watching particularly the final game of that match where it was the N'Zoth Paladin deck versus the Anyfin Paladin deck. And you'd think, at least in my mind, the reason that you choose to play Anyfin Paladin is because it gives you this over-the-top burst finisher in control matchups. It allows you to actually pressure your opponent down, whereas sort of attrition-style Paladin, like the N'Zoth deck, has, to really play like a more on-the-board kind of fair style of game.
Yeah.
But it was the fair game that won that matchup. And it didn't seem like it was any kind of fluke even. Prior to when there was that unfortunate disconnect, it seemed like Riftrellin was ahead there as well. So I'm curious as to the specific decision-making process that leads players to bring the Murloc Paladin deck right now.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're not going to see that Murloc Paladin quite yet. It is instead going to be HotMEOWTH queuing once again with that Warrior deck, and it's going to be the Reno Lock from Leadpaint. We just saw Muzzy actually win this matchup with his Reno Lock. What do you think about the matchup? This
is a matchup that is one of the reasons you play Reno Lock. The Reno Lock deck is very strong against most Warriors in general. You build your strategy, your entire lineup really around Reno Lock because you're choosing not to ban Warrior. And as we saw in that previous match, you're just so good at dealing with decks that are playing to the board and doing so in a way that's kind of just mid-range minions each turn. So unless the Dragon Warrior deck has a particularly aggressive draw, which HotMEOWTH clearly does not, you tend to be a pretty big favorite, it seems.
My favorite card in the deck coming into Leadpaint's hand, Sagoth the Slitherer.
And that card is a huge part of the advantage that you have because Sagoth gives you a big unexecutable taunt. One of the advantages that Dragon Warrior has over a lot of decks that include big minions is execute. It's like, oh, you play a big taunt, fine, kill it for 1 mana. and that's just not possible with Sagoth, and you know, could very well be a major factor in this game if it gets to that point.
leadpaint flashing the camera a thumbs up when he draws that Shadow Bolt, easily taking out the Frothing Berserker, and it's looking like he's off to a really nice start. HotMEOWTH, however, has been pushing quite a bit of damage, and he does have a reasonable curve as well.
Yeah, leadpaint picks up a Demon Wrath, though, which he can pair with the Mortal Coil to clear the board. He did already have the Hellfire, but that runs the risk of getting his life total down a bit lower. He may want to hold on to that, and not necessarily cast, he doesn't have to, simply because he's under a lot of pressure. Also, drawing a card at this point is very valuable for him, since that he needs to find plays to fill out his curve here.
Yeah, until you find Reno Jackson, you definitely want to play it as safe as possible against the Dragon Warrior because it is so aggressive. But he picks up the Emperor Thaurissan. That's actually pretty reasonable here. You get some really nice discounts.
Yeah, Emperor is interesting. The problem is he's under a lot of pressure, and if his opponent just removes Emperor, say he has, well, the Slamfire Warrax that HotMEOWTH in fact has in his hand, you still take a lot of damage, and it will be a risk that leadpaint does take, however. He's going to go ahead and reduce this hand, and getting to twisting Nether or Sagoth a turn earlier can be a really big deal in protecting you.
All right, HotMEOWTH is going to go ahead and remove the Emperor. He does pick up the Blackwing Corruptor, but just 1 mana short of being able to play that with the Slam.
But the Alexstrasza's Champion is a really big draw. This is putting leadpaint on a 2-turn clock. Champion comes down, he pushes for 8 damage. Leadpaint is down to just 7. He really needs some help here.
Oh no.
If he Dark Peddlers and finds a Power Overwhelming, he can clear the board with Shadow Flame. But otherwise, he's in a really rough spot here.
Abusive Sergeant would do it too.
Yep, Abusive Sergeant or Power Overwhelming, or is there anything else? I don't think so.
I think that's probably his only out.
Finds Soulfire.
Soulfire.
That can let him kill the 5/4, which he might have to do. He actually, I believe he's still, if any minion stays on the board here, though, there is Warrax plus Corruptor that will end the game for HotMEOWTH, and leadpaint has no healing.
Oh my goodness, and we were just saying, this is the reason you don't ban the Warrior, you bring the Reno Lock, you win this matchup, but the Dragon Warrior doing what it does best and just absolutely pressuring the heck out of leadpaint.
Yeah, the draw from HotMEOWTH with that Alexstrasza's Champion was a really big deal because it did set up this crucial increase to his clock. If he didn't have that down last turn, he would just not quite have enough damage to win this game. But as it stands, there is the lethal damage. Power of Blackrock will send this to 1-1.
Wow, all right, HotMEOWTH tying up this series very quickly. That was a fast game, too.
That's what the Dragon Warrior wins against Reno Lock. They're pretty quick.
Yeah, it absolutely has to be because, unfortunately, no Reno Jackson there. But if you do get it, then it's very difficult for the Warrior to actually mount enough pressure. But in this case, HotMEOWTH was able to take that game. And what do you think that says for leadpaint? I mean, how does the Reno Warlock match up against the Anyfin Paladin and then HotMEOWTH's Zoo deck?
I think the Anyfin Paladin is one of the reasons you want the big end game burst is a deck like Reno Lock, because you have the tools to not just sort of force their hand in terms of having removal, but also keep them be unable to play cards like Jaraxxus, which is one of the most powerful cards in Reno Lock in control matchups in general. When you're able to just leverage the hero power value turn after turn, it's like, well, it's just not safe when there's the threat of anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, the Reno Lock losing the matchup that it should have won and now might actually just suffer because of it. There is always the potential that you draw the removal that you need, you get the Reno, and then you can win against the Zoo. It's definitely possible with the early game minions like the Dark Peddler, the Imp Gang boss. Mortal Coil is really helpful as well.
Well, it's worth noting that the version that leadpaint is playing is not the sort of combo burst version that we've seen in previous seasons. Many of the versions that we saw a while ago were built to beat control more heavily, included the faceless Leroy Power Overwhelming 20 burst damage combo, but we were able to replace cards like that with Cult Apothecary and other things. The aggressive matchups do get a bit better, so I don't think that the Zoo matchup is quite as bad as it used to be.
But leadpaint is going to choose to go with the Shaman. He's going to give the Warlock a bit of a break and try to pick up another win here. And we are going to see HotMEOWTH with his Paladin. He lost all 3 games with this earlier today. Let's see if he can pick up that win. He's got a very strong hand.
He's going to pick up a win. This is a very good hand to do it. He has double Doomsayer in his opening hand, which allows him to immediately answer leadpaint's threats. And yeah, he's going to go ahead and coin one out right away. Exactly what leadpaint does not want to see.
I mean, leadpaint's hand is fantastic too. If that Doomsayer hadn't have been there, it would have been Trog into Totem Golem into Totem Golem.
And you know, his hand is great against anything but a Doomsayer, but there's a Doomsayer.
Oh, that's unfortunate for him, but he is going to have ways to rebuild. He can go ahead and play the Spirits on 3, but the initiative does move over to HotMEOWTH.
And HotMEOWTH go ahead and plays a Blue Gill Warrior to get some damage in here. There's some argument to just playing the second Doomsayer to ensure that you retain the tempo there, forcing your opponent to take a blank turn 3 as well. But HotMEOWTH does choose to hold on to it for another time.
Yeah, maybe just thinking that he can leverage a bit of a better Doomsayer at some point, but the Shaman is generally pretty good about dealing with threats.
I'm a little curious about that particular decision because the Doomsayer, as the game goes on, gets so much worse because as the Shaman gets more mana, things like Lava Burst or Doomhammer, Rockbiter, they all threaten to make the Doomsayer somewhat irrelevant. Though there is the fact that you can use Doomsayer alongside a clear with, say, Pyromancer quality, play your Doomsayer afterwards to get a free turn at that point.
Well, it did actually end up working out for HotMEOWTH with that Murloc Warleader. He was able to trade into the Totem Golem, and we saw leadpaint start to want to play the Feral Spirits last turn and then end up thinking about it for a second and went with the Tunnel Trog and the Totem Golem instead. And because of it, he's able to push for 4 damage this turn. But the Murloc representation is already really strong. Yeah,
this game is going very much in HotMEOWTH's favor so far. He has been able to contain most everything that leadpaint has been able to do. Looking to see if he happens to get a high result on that Peacekeeper. That's a big deal because it retains his entire board presence and allows him to actually push for more damage. HotMEOWTH has the ability to clear the board, but is going to hold on to it and I think set up that exact play we were talking about with the Pyro quality plus Doomsayer to get himself a free turn.
And leadpaint does have a lot of damage represented in hand. He's got that Doomhammer, he's got the Rockbiter. He's overloaded this turn, so he's going to instead just try to push some minions out on board. But how is he going to be able to respond after this Pyro equality?
Yeah, he's able to do a lot of damage right here. He can get HotMEOWTH down to just 14 life, but he has not quite 14 in his hand. He has 10 burst next turn. And if HotMEOWTH plays the Pyro equality plus Doomsayer, he sets up a turn where he just gets to cast Forbidden Healing for a huge amount next turn. So may not quite be enough window for leadpaint to get back here.
Oh man, he's got 10 with the Rockbiter, Doomhammer, and 1 with the Squire. Unfortunately, still 3 damage off lethal, and HotMEOWTH is going to be able to heal for 14 with that Forbidden Healing.
Yeah, MEOWTH down to just 4 life. But Doomsayer will go off, actually 3 after the attack from the Squire, but Forbidden Healing, it's a powerful card.
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty good. I think it made its way into a couple Paladin decks. And I think this is probably why.
Yeah, absolutely. And Flame Wreath Faceless is... That's a card that can do a little bit of work for leadpaint here. He's already seen several of the removal effects that can deal with it easily. MEOWTH does have a quality bluegill. They sort of poor man's board clear if he really needs it next turn.
Yeah, leadpaint was definitely hoping for the taunt totem there. It would have stopped the bluegill.
Oh, and there's another Forbidden Healing. And then we see the bluegill, the lesser used enabler for equality. and now HotMEOWTH getting a little bit on the board with his soldier there. Feral Spirits gives leadpaint the ability to generate a little bit more, and he's seen both equalities now, so he has more tools to actually stay on the board at this point. But HotMEOWTH has that second Forbidden Healing, and he's going to have anything can happen afterwards, which will allow him to get, I think it's 2 bluegills and a war leader, which can make some inroads on leadpaint's board.
leadpaint decides to trade into that 1/1 recruit instead of hitting face for 2 more damage. HotMEOWTH picks up the 4th and final Murloc in his deck. Oh man, he could go ahead and play that and then still heal for 12 health if he wants to.
It costs him 6 healing to set up a much more powerful anything can happen. And yeah, HotMEOWTH is having to use all of his resources to stay afloat here. Flame Wreath Faceless.
That's actually an excellent draw.
Yeah, I mean, we will see the Feral Spirits protecting leadpaint's minions, and he can get quite a bit of damage in here. There's no way for HotMEOWTH to get a value trade with his War Leader to make it die. So he'll only be able to get the 2 charge minions along with the other War Leader next turn. He can't get double value from this, from his anything, which you'd love to be able to do.
Yeah, he's going to have 2 6-damage bluegills, but one of them is going to have to go into the Feral Spirits token. Oh my goodness.
And he's actually, he can't spend any more mana if he plays anything next turn. So he needs some help here. You know, this looked like it was going all his way, but suddenly
leadpaint still needs a little bit more damage. If HotMEOWTH clears off the 2 Feral Spirits tokens,
yeah, he can clear off the Feral Spirits, but he cannot deal with the Flame Wreath Faceless. He can kill these and the Tuskar Totemic. That leaves 8 damage on the board for leadpaint, which means Lava Burst or Doomhammer is a draw that wins the game. That's neither of them.
No, that's okay. He does still have one more draw in theory.
It's a taunt totem. He could use his minions to clear off some of this board. He can clear the War Leader with the Searing Totem, and then if he kills the other War Leader, I believe there's no immediate way for HotMEOWTH to actually deal with the Flame Wreath Faceless. If he goes face, then HotMEOWTH can actually trade into it. All right, he does go face. This does leave many of the same outs, though HotMEOWTH now has the ability to take the 7/7 off the board. Oh, Ragnaros Light Lord. That is a huge draw for HotMEOWTH.
That, I think.
The board gets cleared up, and there is 13 life for HotMEOWTH, and leadpaint with no cards in hand.
That is just the story of this game. leadpaint has been so close twice now and just unable to close it out. The Horse Rider would have been
it.
Some damage that he really needed, but now what do? You can't kill the Light Lord.
I actually would have been a little bit sure with that, yeah. But yeah, he's just still not quite able to assemble what he needs.
Don't worry, loves. The cavalry.
He does attack into the Light Lord in hopes that the healing will not go to HotMEOWTH's face.
Oh man, he's still got Lava Bursts in deck. He has a second Doomhammer.
More healing from the Ivory Knight, and he finds
Enter the Coliseum.
No, he can take Holy Light, which will actually heal him for 8 total. And I think that what HotMEOWTH cares the most about right now is just his life total. He can't play Enter the Coliseum this turn. Yeah, he does take Holy Light, so he's just trying to get himself out of range of any kind of burn, going up to 19. Interestingly, he actually could have healed Ragnaros and been ensured an 8-point heal in his face if he's not taking a value trade with that Murloc.
I think that actually would have just been definitely the safer play. This way, he has the potential to gain 8 and 6 to his face, but if he'd gone ahead and healed that Ragnaros, he would have ensured 2 more health.
It does get to the face, though, so 27 now for HotMEOWTH here.
Well,
and this was a nail-biter for a while, but it is just out of reach for leadpaint now.
We went from 5 health to even life totals and unable to get anything from that Tuskar Totemic, and HotMEOWTH is going to take a much-needed win with his Murloc Paladin after being unable to get one earlier today against Roof Trellin.
And the crazy thing is just how good HotMEOWTH's early game there was. He had Doomsayer, he had Pyro Quality, and it was still so close. Leadpaint was just so short, and you know, HotMEOWTH had that timely Ragnaros that really just sealed the deal.
Well, leadpaint's starting hand was also really excellent. So I don't know if that would be, saying something about the overall quality of the Paladin deck, or just that both these decks drew very, very well and played as best as they could. And it just ended up that the Paladin has so much healing in the list. It was unfortunately just out of reach for leadpaint, and HotMEOWTH is going to go up 2-1 in the series. Still has to get a win with his Zoo deck. We have seen Zoo flounder a little bit this week.
It's a really good position, though, because leadpaint still has his aggressive Warlock deck, rather his aggressive Shaman deck. And that's a matchup where the Warlock deck typically has a pretty big edge. But leadpaint will go to his own Warlock deck, which is the Reno Handlock. And let's see, Doomsayer in his opening hand is an excellent start for leadpaint. That's kind of a theme we've seen against the aggressive decks.
Yeah, leadpaint definitely wants to try and pick up this second win, tie himself up in the series, and then might have to get a really nice start as the aggro Shaman against the Zoo deck. But this opening hand for Reno is okay.
He has the Doomsayer, which is a great card, but he also has Draxus and N'Zoth, which are cards he's looking to draw much later in the game. And HotMEOWTH has a solid opening himself. He has the powerful Flame Imp.
That Infested Tauren actually could come in very handy in this matchup. It's going to mitigate quite a bit of damage and will most likely provide 2 trades for leadpaint because the Zoo minions usually have pretty low health. The Infested Tauren is a 2/3 and then Death Rattles into a 2/2 token as well.
Yeah, HotMEOWTH just going to go ahead and get his damage in with Flame Imp, send it to the face while he life taps. The end has come.
That's a great card.
Yeah, Shadow Bolt also an excellent draw for leadpaint here. He's really assembling a lot of good tools for the matchup, as life tap tends to do.
Yeah, that Doomsayer was exactly what he needed to be able to get a turn to life tap, to draw even further into his deck and find that removal that he really crucially needs in this game.
If the Darkshire Councilman is just out of range of Shadow Bolt, leadpaint does have the Twilight Drake, which looks to be what he will likely play this turn. It does induce a possible power overwhelming. He only has the ability to make it a 6 health, or rather a 7 health minion, which means that the Flame Imp plus Power Overwhelming can just take it off the board. He will just go with Infested Tauren here.
Yeah, I really like this because if he played the Drake, the Flame Imp plus Power Overwhelming would just clear it off. But this way, he's really hoping that the Flame Imp goes into the Tauren and then the Darkshire Councilman clears off the token, which would allow him to Shadow Bolt the Councilman next turn.
No such luck for leadpaint, though. HotMEOWTH, he's going face. And he's
good reason.
He's hoping to get double juggles there, but he'll take the protection on his Councilman from any kind of removal, including this this slime. And now leadpaint in a really difficult spot. We see a shake of his head, has no good answer to Darkshire Councilman, which is really just threatening to get out of control.
He can Shadow Bolt the taunt, Power Overwhelming the token, and then run it into the Councilman, but then he provides the Zoo with an entire next turn to reload onto the board, and he has no removal. We keep saying that this Reno Warlock deck has that card removal. It has Hellfire, it has Shadow Flame, it has Twisting Nether, but it never seems to draw it in the early game when it really needs it.
And so now HotMEOWTH, as you mentioned, a turn to reload. Gonna go ahead and life tap to start things off. And finds a Direwolf Alpha, so pushing a lot of damage this turn. And leadpaint kind of lacking in his mass removal capacity. Down to just 10 life. Really needs Reno Jackson, needs Hellfire something here.
I think you have to tap for it. You're dead on board if you don't.
Yeah, leadpaint just not finding what he needs is this top card, an AoE effect.
Man, Hellfire?
It is not. It's Karen Bloodhoof. And HotMEOWTH has lethal if Dark Peddler doesn't find something. Nope.
That's all over.
leadpaint, you see a shake of his head and a sigh, and HotMEOWTH looking, leaning into the camera with a smile. Wave to the camera, blows a kiss. You gotta have a good attitude about these things, and he definitely does.
Yeah, the Reno Lock is not working out for him this time.
There's the concession. HotMEOWTH will move on to the Summer Championship.
Oh man, congratulations to HotMEOWTH. He played 2 series today, went really, really great for him. Was able to pick up a win with that Paladin this time, which is really, really what he needed.
Yeah, that was an absolute nail-biter too. It came down to just needing to have every bit of resources that he was able to find, every bit of life really that he was able to generate there, and very well navigated. Just leadpaint just didn't go his way.
Yeah, unfortunate for him, but HotMEOWTH definitely must be happy with that. And it really remains to be seen, is the Reno Lock the better choice, or do you think the Zoo deck is the Warlock that you should be bringing to tournaments? I mean, what do you think?
I would tend to lead toward Zoo these days. Yes, there's a lot of freeze mages and a lot of decks that are kind of targeting Zoo, but as we saw there, it's very powerful if it's not really disrupted very effectively early on. And the Reno Luck deck has a lot of inconsistencies. It lost its theoretically good matchup against Dragon Warrior, and then fell to the Zoo deck as well. So it seems like it's struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, we have seen Zoo perform, a little bit poorly as well yesterday and earlier today, but the Reno Lock, unfortunately, not performing well for leadpaint. It did win a game for Muzzy, but did not work out this time. But HotMEOWTH has booked his ticket to the America's Summer Championship, and we're going to throw it over to Sottle on the blackboard for an interview with him.
Thank you, Cora. Yes, indeed, 7 out of 8 spots have been booked. HotMEOWTH writes his name into the history of the America's Championship, and what a name it is as well. Hopefully, we have HotMEOWTH standing by with us for an interview. HotMEOWTH, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, so can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Awesome. So first things first, congratulations. Very well played. You must be over the moon. But I have to get the burning question out of the way first. What is the deal with the name?
It's pretty inappropriate if you want to say. It's obviously a Pokemon reference. And like Warlock even like made a prediction like talking about my name. But HotMEOWTH, like people mispronounce it as HotMEOWTH, so it's kind of like an improper name, like MILF. So. Okay. Just don't mention it again. But yeah, it's been like a really stressful day. Like a lot of people on Twitch are like mad at me or something because I've been memeing a lot. Like I guess like facial expression is kind of bad manners, but I didn't emo or anything, so I don't know what's up. And then like the Reddit thing, like the DC thing, like it wasn't intentional. Like maybe I'll address that issue later. But yeah, it was like I don't know. First thing first, like. Blizzard, please nerf Yogg. Every time I was like Rufelin or like leadpaint play it, I just had a heart attack. Actually, I'm not even role playing. Like it's just like it's such a strong card, and like it like messed me up like 2 games, and then like the last game, like after the DC, I just kind of tilted like against Rufelin like my Paladin mirror. Yeah, it's a long day. I didn't expect to. I was thinking like, I got this in the bag against Rufelin, but like he's a pretty good player who bought some really wacky decks that's built to Temple Mage. He's famous for like his wacky Temple Mage face. But yeah, I'm just glad that I made it through because like I didn't like meme or like make any facial expression this game obviously because like I just want to focus on the game and I'm pretty tired and just grind it out and I'm happy I got in here.
Awesome. This is the easiest interview I've ever done in my life. I just haven't had to say anything. This is perfect. All right, very quickly.
I actually have some more to say. Like I need to shout out to my
perfect. Yeah, do that.
To my crew. Like I have a Skype group. It's like a joke team, like a meme team. It's called Team KYS. Kind Young Savages. But I really want to thank Demigod. Without Demigod, I wouldn't be here. Like Demigod, he's a really good aggro shaman killer and. He played in ESL tournaments before, and he helped me build my aggro shaman deck and helped me get to rank 1 legend and helped me prepare for this tournament. And also the Marauder Paladin deck, it's his work from Vista Syndicate, so really thank him. And also the Vista Syndicate data repair team. And also I want to thank Gallon213. I was so scared that I would be like in his foot, like because like Gallon213 got to the spring prelim like top 16 and lost 2 games. So I was so scared I would be like him. And then special thanks to Curry too, like Curly97. Those 2 guys really help out to practice and scrim with me. And also like I scrim like with a lot of people like before then too. Like every one of my friends, it's like thank you very much and like and they all wish me good luck. So I really appreciate it.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, dude. We've got a show to run. That was an awesome interview. I'm glad that you're happy to talk to us, but I'm going to let you go. And congratulations. We'll see you very soon.
Thank you. You can't spell mouth without EMO. All right, that's it.
Perfect. What a way to end. Congratulations to HotMEOWTH. Great character. I'm sure you do have supporters in Twitch chat out there, so don't worry about it too much. But thank you. We'll let you go. Congratulations, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
So yes, 7 names booked, 1 more left to go. And we have Teray versus HotMEOWTH as our 8th game. Teray, fairly simplistic route to get here, went through the upper bracket, lost on stream to Abar, now has his 2nd chance, whereas HotMEOWTH has had a bit of a marathon on his hands, honestly. Went down into the lower bracket quite early. We didn't actually have room to fit his entire run on the board. There's actually another game that he did not get to play here, but he's taken out some big names on the way. Amnesiac, Phone Tap, that, both going down at his hands. So we will see if he can pull out one more win, or whether it's going to be Teray that's going to complete our lineup after this grueling season of Hearthstone. We have one more game to cover, and covering it for you at the desk are TJ and Admirable.